memory banks to Algebra 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come back to me. All right, so we're going to do a little preview because this is one of those that we did in Algebra 1, so when you go into Algebra 2, they're going to kind of, well, actually, they're talking about, I'm actually going to teach Algebra 2 next year now because they're changing everything up. So, if you come into my room, I'm going to expect you to know how to do this, especially since I'll say, hey, I did this with you. You should know this. So, here we go. First thing is that we're going to work on writing equivalent equations from standard form to slope-intercept form, and then graph your line, all right? So we want to write the equation of a line through the point 2, -5 with a slope of -1/5 in standard form. All right, so my first question is going to be, what do we know? What equation form am I going to pick to use? Oops, my pens are drying out. It's so sad. Okay, select equation form. That's the first one, okay? All right, so my question is, what do we know? We know a point and we know a slope. So which one is this one? Which one are we going to do for this? Point slope, because that's the two things that we know. So I'm going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? All right, now we're going to substitute what we know. And so I'm going to have y plus 5 is equal to -1/5 x minus 2. There's my question. How is it plus 5 when I put in a -5? Gary, tell me. Because it would have been y minus -5, and my two negatives simplify to positive. Perfect answer. Perfect question. Sure.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
You wrote down on the side that it's x minus x, but in the linear equation it says it's x plus x.
Oh, that is so wrong. It's x minus. Wow, good catch. I stole that from a picture off the internet, and I didn't catch that.
Picture of the linear?
On your linear equation forms, the correct form for point slope is x minus x1, and in the picture it had x plus x1, so change that. Because I just found that on the internet instead of recreating, I bootlegged it, and I didn't catch that. Good catch. All right, what's the next step? If I'm trying to get from this form where x and y is on the other side, what's the first step to do? Distribute. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to have y plus 5 is equal to -1/5 x plus 2/5. Good. What's my next step? Yep, you're going to either add or subtract your x and the constant. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. This x.
Yeah, but where did that?
Because when I distributed 1/5 times the x, and I'm going to add 1/5 x, and so that gives me 1/5 x plus y is equal to, I need my calculator. So I have -5 plus 2/5, 2/5, and I want it in fraction. Oops, how do you do that? -4.6, how do you do that in here?
You do the separate and press the PRV. No, PRV.
So that would be -23/5. Because -4 times 5 gives me -20 plus the 3.
Wait.
So we have to write it like that?
You're going to want to write it as an improper fraction. That's a really good question because, and the reason why is because my last step is no fractions or -x. Okay, now my x is positive, so I'm good on that, but I can't have any fractions. So if I keep it in that same because of the 5, what do you do to get rid of a fraction?
Multiply by 2.
I'm going to multiply, perfect, but multiply by your denominator. So if I multiply by 5, and I have to do it to each one, so that gives me x plus 5y equals -23. Because the 5's cancel.
I'm confused. How did you
Okay, so, all right. Instead of I'm confused, reword that to a question.
Well, you go back to step 4.
Okay.
X.
Step 4,
Yeah.
I had y plus 5 equals -1/5 x plus 2/5, right?
Yeah.
I need everything to be x plus y equals c. C is just the number. So I subtracted 5 to get my 5 on the other side, and I added 1/5 x, so that I ended up with 1/5 x plus y, those canceled, and then 2/5 minus 5 gave me -23 5. Because -5 plus 2/5. How do you do fractions when you're adding fractions? The denominator has to be the same, right? No, that's when there's equal sign. The denominator has to be the same. So I have to put this into a fraction. So that would make it -25 over 5. Because 5 times 5 gives me -25. If I simplified that, that would give me -5. Are you with me on that? Okay? And then plus 2/5, that's like saying -2/5 plus 2 over 5 gives me -23 fifths. That's also what the calculator, that's why when I did it in the calculator, that's what the calculator gave it to me as.
Well, you got 4 and 3.
But this is -4 3/5, so -4, to put that in a proper, -4 3/5 is -4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 3 to turn it into the improper. Okay, is that better? Was that what lost you on, was the fraction part? Okay, so are we better on the distributing or number 4 now? Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay, then is everybody with me on 5 where I took the 5 because that was my denominator, and I distributed to each one so that I got rid of all my fractions and stuff. Good? Better? Okay, good. All right, so that's writing the equations. Basically, you're going to follow all of these steps, just moving everything back and forth to whatever form that you needed it. All right? Usually, if you start with point slope, you're always going to go up to slope intercept and then up to standard form. It's the same steps each time. All right? And then if we go back down, so I want to write the equation negative 2x plus 3y equals 9 in slope intercept form. That means I need what? Y on one side, everything else on the other, right? Okay, so what's my first step that I'm going to do? Yep. You're going to either add or subtract x to move to the other side. And so I'm going to add 2x, and I'm left with 3y is equal to 2x plus 9. Now you have to divide. Divide to get y by itself. Okay, so when I divide by 3, I have y is equal to 2/3 x plus 3. It's ringing bells. Slowly coming back. Easy peasy. Okay. How do you graph stuff? Okay. Start off. If we want to graph with slope intercept, all right, am I in slope intercept here? No. You can graph in standard form, but you got to find your x-intercepts, and you got to find your y-intercepts. Pain in the butt. Just put it in slope-intercept form. Much easier. So I would end up with 4y is equal to 2x plus 8. Everybody good on that? Divide by 4. And so y is equal to 1/2 x plus 2. Good? Awesome. Now I'm in slope-intercept form. I plot my y-intercept. So it's 2. So on my y-axis, I plot the 2. Okay? From my y-intercept, I use slope to the next point. I'm going up 1 and over 2. What if I went down 1? Then I go left 2. And then I take my handy dandy protractor so that I can draw a straight line.
Are we going to start using protractors?
No, I just have it in front of me I use it for my ruler all the time. Okay? If you're plotting with point slope, all right, so let's do our equation from up above. All right, I had the point of 2, -5 with a slope of -1/5. Plot your point, so I go over 2 and down -5, and then just use your slope. So down 1 and over 2, 3, 4, 5.
Wait, what are you getting? How are you getting
From our point slope one up here. if I have a graphing from, so I was graphing the first example. So I would plot my point of 2, -5, and I had a slope of -1/5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I got that right. Okay, so my point being, if it's in point slope form, you don't need to put it into slope intercept form. Use what you know and go ahead and graph. Okay. All right. Are y'all with me? X equals -2. How do you plot that?
Go to negative 2, draw straight.
-2 where? On the x-axis, right? So, because x equals -2 is like saying -2, 0. And then we draw a line so that it intersects it. Okay.
You place it on the 4 and you draw a line.
Place it on the 4 of what?
Y.
The y-axis. Perfect. Because that's like saying you have a point of 0, 4. And then you have a horizontal. Arc flooding back. Yes. All right. Okay. So you have 5 minutes, or let's say, no, I'm going to give you 7 minutes to graph these 6 graphs. You can do it. And then we're going to do another Kahoot.